Hey Wharf Rats, Ryan here,
And Wes?
and we're outside one of our favorite game stores, Games and Stuff, down here in Glen Burnie, Maryland, with another exciting show of Rat Chat. Today on Rat Chat, tell us what we got.
Well, we have a very special guest, Blackwell Hird. He's a developer and wears a lot of different hats with Lock and Load and has a lot of interesting things to say, particularly about the business. And if you ever want to hear about a new printer coming to the United States, stick around and listen to what he has to tell you. It's fascinating.
We also have Baltimore Firsts. This time we're going to be taking a look at some key board gaming locations around Baltimore. And after that, we're going to be giving away our copy of Guns of August and announcing our next game giveaway, another World War I. Learn more about that soon. What else, Wes?
And at the end, as usual, we'll talk more about news and notes. What else is going on with Wharf Rat?
Now, Wes, it is mighty cold outside here.
I am freezing.
It seems like every time we're videoing these things, it's in the cold. Come the summer, can we switch to bathing suits?
Yes.
You don't mind if I get out my Speedo?
Yes, I do mind.
Okay. Well, find something appropriate then.
Okay. Welcome. We are the Wharf Rats. We're here at our Rat Chat. We got Ryan waving at you. I'm waving at you, Wes. And we have a very special guest today that we actually met at PAX Unplugged recently in Philadelphia for the first time, although we knew of him. His name is Blackwell Hird, and he wears a lot of hats. He's a designer, a developer. He works towards production for manufacturing. He does graphic arts, and you probably know his name through Lock and Load and other things. But let's start it off with Blackwell. Welcome.
Welcome. You. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Tell a little bit about yourself if you'd like to start off that way.
Well, you pretty much hit all the nails on the head. I am a developer and publisher. I work with David Heath at Lock and Load, and currently living in snowy Vermont. And I've been doing this for the past 10 to 15 years, depending on which genre we're in. I spent the first part of my career in video games. Then I met David Heath and I transitioned to tabletop games. And now I kind of straddle a line of wherever play takes you, I will design and publish something for that.
Very cool.
Did you meet David through video games or through board games? Because I know David has a background in video games as well.
Well, exactly that. I met him through a rather tumultuous Kickstarter campaign, trying fresh out of game design school, convinced I knew exactly what I was doing. And I put my money where my mouth was and received a rather large black eye for my trouble. But it did put me in touch with David Heath. And I convinced him that I was more than just the campaign would suggest, and came on board as a designer with the understanding that I would pitch hit wherever the then newly acquired Lock and Load would have need of me. And
Gotcha.
It spiraled out from there.
So, yeah, very cool. Can you tell us about some of the games you worked on with Lock and Load, things that we might know?
Absolutely. The ones that I'm on as associate producer are the Lock and Load Tactical Series, specifically that rebrand that happened in the late 2010s. When I got to the company, it was still in the black and white manual phase with the square counters that you had to round yourself. And I remember part of the discussion at the time was, how do we make this different? Because we have feedback we need to restock, but we can't just sell them the same game. What are we going to do? And I walked in with a copy of Catan, or at the time also with Twilight Imperium, my favorite game of all time. And I said, this is in color and it's got rounded counters. And David and I, and at the time, 3 other people, all looked at each other and went, oh yeah, that's a thing. And we quickly realized that we had the capability to jump the IP forward. And so that was the first instance of really cutting my teeth on how to design a tabletop product using best practices in the industry, and how then to actually engage with manufacturing, not just in a traditional sense, but what we could do, not just what we're doing.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think sometimes I feel like with the wargaming industry and the wargaming publishers, we're a little behind, and it's kind of like we're trying to push ourselves more towards what some of the more mainstream is doing, and we're getting there in some regards, and sometimes we're surpassing them. And I mean, maybe I'm crazy. You tell me. You do the more of this than I do.
I just think it's where wargaming originated.
Yeah.
Like, I see mainstream gaming as essentially an offshoot of Crossfire, or that wonderful thing, Hero Quest, or the Dark Tower. Wargaming is an extension of chess to a certain degree, where it's less about the pieces and more about the game. That was the slogan for the company: less guff, more game. So when it comes to wargaming, it's a question of what do wargamers value. Typically, they value the crunch. They want the scenarios. They want the authenticity. The presentation, generally speaking, tends to take a backseat because you're so focused on the important pieces. So that can lead to that sort of backslide in presentation, or at least best practices. But we found that the presentation does lead to more interest. It doesn't necessarily lead to more sales because of that interest in the priority of war games.
Interesting.
Academy Games actually spun off a new studio, or at least a new studio. They were there at PAX Unplugged for their non-war game offerings. So you've got the Agents of Mayhem, you've got the Civilization or Stellaris game, but then you've got their World War II strategy games, and they look worlds different. And I noticed the insignia on the box is in fact different.
It seems like a lot of companies are doing that. Worthington has a separate little imprint. Pungo Academy does. A lot of game companies are doing that for trying to meet that mass market that they can't necessarily meet with their traditional war games. So it's very interesting.
But it's interesting. Yeah, it also has the possibility of bringing the groups together, and maybe some of the war gamers will say, well, this is a very good kind of strategic game over here I might like, that's not a traditional war game. And what everybody's hoping is vice versa, that some of the people that like strategic games get into these more historical based games. So it's a win-win if we with our Wharf Rats hat on, if we can all pull this kind of thing off. And I think everybody's definitely got at least a toe, if not a foot, into that kind of idea. But wow. Well, did you want to tell us then, since you work so much with Lock and Load, what is Lock and Load up to now, and what's on the horizon?
So on the horizon is a transition into a more the term, be precise here, a consistent release schedule with new IP and old IP and new, established IP. So we don't stagnate, and we also deliver on the established games that people like, but also that same innovation prospect I just mentioned, whereby we took countercutting and we did that presentation leap forward. Right now, David's just released AI assistant manuals. So we are trying very hard to bridge the gap between, as you say, where can you go with war games to bring at least others outside the sphere in, instead of just pure presentation, trying to dumb it down, so to speak. Why don't we decrease the barrier to entry? So if you're trying to get to grips with a war game, I myself, when I got to the company, I opened up a copy of America Conquered for World of War, and instantly bounced off like it was bulletproof. And I'm not someone who has a trouble reading rules, but I am someone who needs a frame of reference. or at least a method to engage with a rule book in a way that I can parse. And this does that. You can ask these AI manuals, how do I do X? How do I do Y? Where do I start? And it answers really, really well. So if you open one of these up on your phone, you don't need an app, you don't need anything of that. It'll just help you set up your game or give you quick rule answers instead of having to flip through the manual or read FAQs online or engage with that, which we've all had to do. And part of that then is also we want to move more into that space. We want a link between your technology and the state of play on the table and seeing how we can evolve in that manner.
Okay.
So this is sorry, Wes. So this is just like you just go to a web page or something like that at Lock and Load, and you can bring it up, and then you can type in what you want, and it helps you get into the games.
Yeah, or you can use a speech to text. You can turn on the microphone on your phone and says, how do I shoot this person with this weapon? And it'll tell you, based on this, what terrain you're in, but it'll give you the answer.
Oh, wow.
But you'll have a printed rule book and
yeah.
playbook and stuff, and then you have this extra thing, just you'd go on your site or have it called up at the beginning of the game, and then you have all this integrated with AI, not just like you said, not just a frequently asked question or something. It's very interesting.
Correct.
It's very interesting.
We want value. We want value add. We don't want to push a behavior. It's like when they released XCOM at Fantasy Flight and the massive outcry about, and I have that game, no manual. It's the app or nothing. In fact, I've entombed an iPad in that game just so I have a copy of the game to play.
Yeah, so keep the old tradition, keep the concept of being able to go to a manual, like us old guys like to do, and then with the newbies that want to go straight to an app or learn through a video or using AI, as you said, they can do that as well. That's really great. I think that's exciting. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Are there any new games on the horizon that is part of this new release schedule that we should be looking out for?
Well, there will be 2
in
the near future. Of course, if you have if anyone who watches this, if you have any questions, just go to the Facebook group or ping David. I'm sure he would love to answer these questions. I can tell you that we are working on the next installment of Lock and Load Tactical, and it is going to be different than what we have offered before. In substantial ways, but it's that sweet spot of most advanced yet acceptable. Because
you can't tell us the theme of this one or the setting.
No, I can't be more specific. Specifically, wow, that was a sentence. I cannot give you specifics due to the party line that I have to toe. David is still working out specifically what he wants to say and when. A lot of it has to do with how do we, again, that same, late 2020 or late 2010s rebrand of how do we bring it forward? We have to do the same thing here. I can say because the last one we released, Bitter Harvest, was not the resounding success that we anticipated.
Oh, I thought it was.
It was a success. But it was not on the level that we had hoped due to the fact that it was the latest entry in a very long-running series. It wasn't due to the quality of the game. The quality of the game that we have been able to achieve is fantastic. I'm not saying that. That's what we have on feedback. But we're getting the sense that the format is in need of updating, not changing, but needs to update. So, and also recent advances in manufacturing have gotten way better. So for instance, the last game we released, what's it called? First Victories, our Napoleonic game. And that has hexagon counters, that has circular counters. It's got ways of bringing tactile engagement to the game that just make it easier to separate things on the board. We're having discussions on how do we create a better experience when you open the box. Things of that nature, all these little slice of life improvements that you can do with manufacturing that we weren't sure the factory could actually do with the last 2 that we used. The current one that we're working with is phenomenal and they're very responsive. So we're looking to see what we can push with the game in that aspect. specifically, as you say, to try and encourage those people that need that visual stimuli to engage with a product, while also keeping the crunch, the rules, and making that part easier to get into with the AI rule books and the AI assistant.
Yeah, very
Many things.
So you said 2 games. That's one. You said there was another one that's coming out of working out.
Oh no, that's there are 2 games that will come out earlier, or I'd say Q2 of next year, and then there's Lock and Load Tactical.
Okay.
That's number 3. Number 4 is going to, I suspect, will be a smaller game to test out a new process. But again, I can't give any real specific details because the commandant has all the details, and I am but a humble servant.
Well, how about my friend Sean's game? I know that he had that Point Blank, and I know we have a winter version coming out.
Winter Victory.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And when is that one? Soon?
Oh, soon.
Okay. I wasn't sure. He hasn't updated me on it, so I wasn't sure.
Oh no, yeah, it's coming soon. I think I finished the majority of the work for the printer on that one, and that will be the announcement for that one will come from David. Look for that on our Game Found, on the website itself, on the social media platforms. I think he just announced that he's consolidating the forums onto the social media like Discord and X.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Hey, I have a question, and I don't know if you can answer it, but it's something I just don't hear anybody talk about in the interviews. And that's like, okay, here you are, a company, you deal with China, everybody knows it. There's no hiding of that from anybody. What companies do you recommend over there?
That's an interesting question.
Because it sounds like there's a lot of factories over there, and we're looking around some too. We talked with 2 of them at PAX Unplugged, and it's interesting what they have to say. I mean, it's some of them are looking around at other places in the world to open up factories too, and so that there's a lot interesting going on in there, and nobody talks about it too much, and yet it's crucial to where the games are going, especially if tariffs are coming up and things. Can you mention a name, or is it something you think your company wants to hold close to itself, because they advertise on their sites who takes games from them,
If you type in board game manufacturer into Google, you will get any number of factories, and 90% of them are fronts, and they all have a factory in China. I was talking with a company called Boda Games. I'm sure you encountered them.
Yeah, they were there.
Yeah, their factory's in China, but it's not their factory. So you've sort of hit what I've been working on for the last year, is to solve a problem in that China has captured roughly 60 to 70% of all board game manufacture, and nobody owns a stake in it. It's all contract based, and it's from what I can tell, and based on experience, not based on like I have the data, right? So, tinfoil hat, salt, whatever you want. I suspect that it's in a big incestuous pot of like 10, 12 factories that each have 20 to 30 different names attached to them that all go out and gather, just like a honey trap. They all gather business, feed it back, and the party subsidizes and controls most of what goes on there. And I can say that because anytime when you have conversations, at least with me, not David, but when I have conversations with different manufacturers, if I get anywhere close to a sensitive subject, the subject changes really quickly. And it's always the translator you're talking to. You're never talking to the actual person who runs the factory or who does the machines, because they can't. They don't speak our language, and we don't speak theirs. You always have to go through the intermediary. So a name that Lock and Load works with that's been amazing, and I would recommend everybody use them, is eNovelcraft.
eNovelcraft.
You write
eNovelcraft.
Oh yeah, I'm writing it
down. eNovelcraft is great.
Got it.
Magicraft we used to use. They were the ones that had some issues with their communication. They have since fixed it, because I suspect their front man, his name is Pride, was taken aside quite gently by either his handler or somebody else in the industry, and his tone changed from "we'll give you what you get" to "what do you want, we'll do it." it was quite turnaround, because like this is now 10 years on, and I'm sure anything that has happened then is no longer indicative of their current status. However, everyone has these stories. Like 7 years ago, I sent Magicraft all of the manuals and boxes for the whole reprint of a new set of lock and load games, and I asked them, what color code do you need? Like not Pantone code, you'll never get that. What specific, like just basic, like RGB or CMYK, which code do you want?
Right.
And they said, quote, send us what you have, we'll figure it out. Turns out they didn't, and everything was gray and desaturated.
Yeah,
because
no,
here's another
don't work that way.
fun fact. Yeah, here's another fun fact for your audience. They're not legally allowed to use Photoshop or any Western program. So whatever you send them, the publisher's old hat. People who do this know this, and they will groan in recognition. But any new people, when you make your files and you send it to them, they're not using your files. They're taking them apart, replacing them on their own stuff in their own software, and you get to roll the dice as to whether or not they've got good color correction. Now, they've sorted it out, but man, that's an interesting process.
That's crazy. Yeah, I know Magicraft is used, I found out today, by Worthington Academy, Flying Pig. There's quite a few companies that use those that are big. That other one you mentioned, Boda, I know is used by a couple of big companies as well. So
Boda doesn't own that factory. Boda contracts with that factory. That's what it is. Like you can have any number of people saying we'll manufacture your game, and they have an office in California or in New York or in whatever. They're all having to deal with a factory in China that is not owned by them.
Wow. So
It's just
the people at PAX Unplugged, we saw several, companies there, Long Pack and stuff. They're not really with the company. They're how would that relationship be, you think?
Long Pack is a Chinese company based out of there. Boda is a publishing warehouse that contracts with a manufacturer that can say they'll manufacture their game, because essentially this other whatever factory they use is a contract. Now, if I'm wrong on that one, I will absolutely take the hit on that. But from my experience, that's generally how it works. I've called up a dozen different manufacturers in the U.S., and they all contract out to the factories in China, and you don't own those factories, so they can't own the factory.
Yeah.
So what do we do then? I mean, if 60 to 70% of the market's over there, and these U.S. companies are sending it all over there, where do we go? I mean, I hear something in Germany, Poland, Vietnam. Where?
Yeah,
where do we go?
Well, you Mexico, India, Czechoslovakia, Germany. The cost is higher. The quality assurance is lower. The one thing that China will do, as you pointed out, and I'm using this in my everyday now, is that they'll stand by their mistakes. Nobody else will, which is fantastic. There's one factory here in the U.S. It's in Tennessee. They manufacture Catan, but they'll do it at roughly a 800% markup.
Okay, that's a large markup. Sorry, there was something that came across the screen, and I want to make sure that we don't get disturbed again, because there was a big beep, and that was my phone giving a message. So I put it on Do Not Disturb. Sorry about that, guys. That's why I was looking over.
That's all good.
But 800%.
Yes.
To get to where?
Well, so this is a company in Tennessee. They manufacture Catan. There's actually a listing online you can type in for like list of board game manufacturers, and this wonderful person, free of charge, keeps a long, basically Excel spreadsheet of all the U.S. manufacturers. Blue Panther's on there. SPOD is on there. Long Pack, Magicraft, they're all on there. And this one company, we went to them, and they met, their production runs are 50,000 units, 100,000 units. And we went to them with point blank, because at the time COVID was just, shutting everything down, and we were trying to find any kind of a switch that we could. And we asked them for quotes, and China quoted us $11 a unit. 11? Okay. It was either $11 or $16 a unit. Czechoslovakia quoted us $32 a unit. This company quoted us $87 a unit. And I don't know what your PG or your rating system is on this one, but all they had to do was like this in an email, I would have done the same thing. But over the last 6 to 8 months, I retract that statement. That's just the cost of doing business in the U.S. It's unimaginably different, both due to their to the Chinese party subsidizing most of their equipment and materials to U.S. Suppliers essentially building in middlemen costs all throughout your distribution and your supply chain. Like you can get a
Right.
copy, you can get a deck of hammer mill paper for like 5 cents a sheet, but in China it's like 0.005 cents a sheet. There's no
So,
way you can compete with that.
segueing into the next question, which we do have a little preparation for because we spoke at length at PAX Unplugged. What kind of solution can be done? Do you have, let's all think for 10 seconds. 10
Yes,
seconds
yes.
over.
Well,
Okay.
the obvious thing is, so if it breaks down like this, if in the metrics of board game sales, 60% of all games are bought by U.S. customers, and 60 to 70% of all board games are manufactured in China. It would seem like you're taking a very long road to get back to here. And for those first time people, when you go to crowdfunding, you have your game and you have all your extras. You have to buy all those extras. They're printed in China, assembled, sent over, long boat. You have to buy a container, get to the US, goes to a warehouse, gets resorted, just in case you bought extras on your game, then gets packed and shipped. So why don't we just do that here? So you buy all your equipment, you put it in a factory. At the end of the manufacturing run, you box it for the individual person right off the assembly line and put it directly into the mail. And what I propose is to do exactly that. I am looking to open a U.S. manufacturing for board games, scaled to handle orders of 500 to 5,000 units per order, right in that sweet spot for individual or small team developers looking to print their games and manufacture their games in the US. It jumps over the communication hurdle. It jumps over the long wait time to delivery. It jumps over the rather thorny issue of fulfillment, which is always that sort of nebulous monster that lurks in the back end of all the project fulfillment parts. And it gets you to market within about 4 weeks, as opposed to 4 to 6 months, depending on if the boat decides to go to Oslo versus going to LA or to Florida, which happened to me on one of my games. That was fun.
Well, how
Chris,
can you beat this $87 price point?
Asymmetric warfare is the military term. In parlance, it's called tactical fuckery. So I have a supplier willing to work with me to get that cost roughly on parity. It'll never match China. It's just not. I'm never going to get there, but I can get it within $7 to $8 of their per unit cost. You work in this industry for 10 years, nobody knows who I am, which is both a blessing and a curse. On the one hand, I've seen just about everybody, and I know all of the tricks, so to speak, in the logistics process and in the production process. On the other hand, I don't get to use my name. The only name I get to use is David Heath and those who've worked directly with me. But in so doing, I come to it with a fresh face and I can ask questions that won't necessarily provoke are you trying to outcompete us type of thing. I'm just a dude who works in the corner. But I can open a U.S. manufacturing facility that'll do you within $7 to $8 of China's per unit cost. You won't have to deal with fulfillment and shipping, transcontinental shipping. We can take it directly to the U.S. post office and just stick it in the mail. DHL will take care of overseas shipping. If you're since I'm the manufacturer, I'm not worried about the shipping cost that's on the publisher to sort out at the time of purchase on their Kickstarter. So theoretically, that should be baked into their cost already, but you won't have the $7,000 additional cost of the container. Also, one of the benefits here is that I can speak to GameFound. I can't speak to Kickstarter right now, but in GameFound, you raise your stake at the end of your campaign, you get your stake, you can leave the project manager open to take orders past that point. And for those first-time developers, you still have to pay people to get to the finish line. So if it takes 6 months to ship your product, you have to pay your staff for 6 months. And all you have is that initial stake minus the like 20 to 30% it costs to actually produce and print your game. In my scenario, it takes 4 weeks to ship that first thing, that first wave of games. You can keep taking orders with your project manager for a year and ship games every 4 weeks and continue to sell your game, which speaks directly to a problem Uwe at Academy had when he said that games now have a tail of like 2 weeks. Whereas before you had a tail of like 2 years to sell your game and continue to have profit on it. I'm going to try and extend your sales tail by leveraging that Kickstarter or crowdfunding campaign and all the hype you've built up for it. Let's use it while it's still there. So you can keep taking orders on the campaign while people are still checking in. You don't have to cut it off just so you have to wait 6 months and then possibly do another one in the future. You can keep it rolling. That's the soft side of the business plan. Now, Boda, what they'll do is they'll take that same idea. They'll go, okay, we'll take you from start. Here's your design, like you want to do. We'll get you your artwork. We'll get you your crowdfunding campaign. We'll manage your back end, and then we'll have it printed. Having done this for 10 years, I can do that as well, but I'm also the printer. So I don't have to go through a intermediary and a translator to get the factory floor to do what you want to do. I can actually be the factory floor.
And you're talking about mounted boards, everything, perhaps dual layered boards, all the cards, different finishes.
So
stuff.
To start with, we will be offering mounted materials, bespoke die cut, card counting, what's the term? Custom box size and depth to a limit. And we can't print you an actual coffin, but we can make you a box, 4 inches deep by 20 inches by 15 inches. So just about anything you need to stick in there that isn't Fantasy Flight. We can do, because I'm working with an exceptionally well-connected group of people up here who have it's amazing the actual infrastructure of people wanting to make business happen here in Vermont.
Oh, good.
I'll have access to laser cutting, injection molding, 3D printing, laser cut, all of those things on demand as I need it. And so we can offer the ancillaries beyond your basic war game, folded mounted maps, mounted materials, folded materials. We can offer those extra tactile pieces that, as I said, are water-moving games at this point in the larger industry. So that can come in as an option for your games.
Okay.
So yes, mounted maps, layered materials, layered player sheets, all of that is possible.
I have another question. So you found a way to compete with China with supplies. And then the other side of that, I mean, well, there's the machinery, of course, and all that equipment. And then there's the labor. And that's what we always hear. Well, we just can't compete with China, the labor. And they're, using everything from slave labor to, very inexpensive labor. And some people aren't making much money and things like that. Are you finding a way to get around that? Or is maybe labor, once you hit a button on a machine and makes it, run off 1,000 copies of something, is it what I'm guessing you might tell me is that labor is not such a big thing because it's not so many people involved? Or
yes and no. That's as the Vorlons say, that's a three-edged sword. Yes, I'm a huge nerd. I know that cry just rang out across the universe. But the reason I am getting within $7 to $8 and not parity is due to specifically labor, insurance, and upkeep. You do take a hit on labor because it's still, at the end of the day, unless you are investing $1 million to $3 million into your setup, you're still pushing a button and getting a result. Now you can do that one button, next sheet. You can do 17 sheets a minute. You can card cut, and while you are feeding counter sheets, the printer is making the booklets, et cetera, et cetera. But it's still handmade and it's still hand done for the most part. Even in China, it's still handmade. Like very little is actually automated. People are still there painting all of your BattleTech minis. And gluing them together by hand, which is why I want 3D printers. I want to automate the process as much as possible, so one to two people can essentially do the work of 5. And if you do it concurrently, you can achieve some kind of equilibrium that will let you, like, you hit the button on the laser cutter, it's cutting your plastic pieces, the printer is running off more counter sheets to mount, I'm mounting counter sheets to gray board, and then the next sheets will come over. Once all the gray board's mounted, I'm hitting the buttons on the die cutter while the printer is making the booklets. And then when the printers make the booklets, I set the printer to print the stickers for the boxes, while I then take the booklets over to the cutter and the spiral binder, get that done. And the process kind of works like that, where some machines can work concurrently with others. You're never going to get around the labor, but advances in automation and a good head for efficiency will solve some of the discrepancy.
Yeah.
But it's still more expensive. It'll always be more expensive.
Yeah, and I might have misspoke a moment ago. Did I say slave labor in China? I shouldn't have said that. If I did, I think I meant prison labor.
Well,
I don't know if that's involved in any part of the game industry either. But it sounds like what you're talking about, is a great idea, and the fact that games and have so much background in games and games production and design and development and everything, that would be the right person to run something like this and come up with it in the United States.
I mean, here's hoping. Like, I am not a person who thinks I can exploit and ramshackle and just get money. Like, I wouldn't, if I had an option, I wouldn't do this. Let's put it this way. I'm driven entirely by a need for this industry to have some kind of a backstop. Like, you have an enormous face of this industry. It's a $15 billion industry. According to the New York Times, by 2025, next year, it'll be $33 billion in sales, and we're still using China. So, usually your profit margins, it's an 80% profit margin, and no one's making any money. It's insane. Mainly due to cash flow problems, and because of exceedingly large time frames to market. But also because of middlemen. If you try and go somewhere else, you get fleeced in your development time. And there is a wealth of information that needs to be communicated in order to make this profitable for people just starting out. And there needs to be an option that will help them, and they don't have to speak Chinese to do it. And they don't have to trust that the whims of fate and the high seas won't deliver their product to them at some point in the future. Have a problem. Like, to your point, slave labor. Let's be as transparent as possible. A friend of mine was a music producer, by which I mean he made instruments. And when we outsourced in 2008 to China, most of our industry, it was a boon. It was great. But there was always that problem where you had to throw away 30% of all inventory that you got due to defects. Well, he investigated. He went over to China. He went to the factory that the company says they were using. They weren't. They had to drive from the factory about an hour and a half into mainland China, where a little village had all of the hand-making materials and tools essentially they were making saxophones. To make saxophones, and they were just dumping all the chemicals for it in the river, and that's where they were getting all of their equipment. For the first year, it was being made in the factory, but they needed to repurpose the factory for a better client. So the party went, here, use these people. And that's what you get. It's the Wild West over there.
Yeah. Wild.
Crazy. So do you have a timeline for this? I mean, when you might think this might take off, or what your thoughts are?
I want to open doors in March. And when I say open doors, I want to make sure I can actually make it go. So, you kick the tires on a new car. I want to put a game through it and bring it to PAX next year. I'm working with Steve Jones, Blue Panther, to sort out a couple of part issues that he wants to put through me.
Okay.
And the goal being I can produce die-cut counter sheets on demand for War Game Vault, for Blue Panther, for other prototyping people that look like real counters, that aren't necessarily, they're not using a different style than people are used to. Because you can make counters any way you want. You can use a laser cutter, you can use a die roller, but everyone loves the pressed gray board. So I want to do that.
Gotcha. So March, and then some sort of game out by PAX.
Yes,
That's
March. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well,
we're looking forward to seeing what it is and what you come out with. And
me
really
too.
wish you the best of luck with all of this.
And
it sounds like a fantastic adventure.
Remember who gave you your first interview?
Oh God, yeah. Well, the goal is to, like, long term. I want this to be a factory that employs 20 to 60 people. I want it to be in the middle of Springfield. I want another one in Europe, specifically in the EU, and I want another one. I want to then contract with China for there, because you can't own anything there. But you can invest in it. You can't own it. And so we have this new digital age of email. Like, we email things to be printed there. Why don't we just bloody well print it over there and stop sending it on a long bloody boat?
Yeah.
So if I start a printing manufacturing source in, I don't know, say Germany, and just have them make bloody games. So if you come to me and says, I need 3,000 units, 50 of them are going to Germany, 60 of them are going XYZ in Europe,
Yep.
and like 600 here, I don't have to put them on DHL. I just have to hit send.
Yeah.
You're not the only one talking about that. That was one of the things that one of the manufacturers was talking about with us when we were there at PACU. They were saying that they were looking at one of their factories in Egypt to service EU. Obviously, the one in China servicing that, and over to the US, et cetera, et cetera. And makes complete sense. It makes complete sense. And if you can find the facility to do it over there, and then
that's always the problem.
It makes
Nobody wants to. Nobody wants to be the engineer. Everyone wants to drive. This was true in movies. This is true in TV, and this is now true in games. Like any part of entertainment, it's the flashy bit everyone wants to be, but nobody actually wants to, build the sausage.
But you do.
Well, I do,
because I'm an industrial designer by actual education, and I'd actually like to get some use out of the enormously expensive degree that I have.
Well, I think that is a wonderful thing. Yeah, definitely. We really appreciate having you with us to talk about some of this stuff, and keep us up to date and let us know what's going on. And as we always say, every time you're on Rat Chat, you now become an official part of the Wharf Rat Pack. So we will put you onto our website and put all your information and whatnot and contact and that sort of stuff on there, so that you'll be. We had Herman Lutman was on there, we had Dave Shaw on there, we had Zetaran on there, and now we have you. And I think we're getting a nice, diverse crew. We had two designers, an artist, and now a person who's going to actually print games. And I think that's fantastic. So
print games in a way that's affordable and useful to people. I know so many companies struggle. It's not because they want to fleece you. It's just because that's the cost of doing business in the U.S. And like as a closer here, just for anyone listening, is like I'm not someone who believes that strip mining is the way to go. In 2000, when the trade war first kicked off, and then we started seeing this amazing prices in shipping, because then the oil, essentially the gas price went through the roof. It went from, I think, $6,000 a container to like 12,000, sometimes even like to 20,000. The only way this industry could have survived with all the smaller publishers is we all bought shares in a container, essentially, to get our games out. And you can't be in bed with everybody, because nobody. It's like the game theory. There's always a zero sum. If you take everything for yourself, you get everything for yourself. But there is a benefit to cooperation, and like I'm not trying to put Boda Games out of business. I'm not trying to put Blue Panther out of business. I want them to succeed, because the more options you have, like the more options you have to get this industry moving forward. And I think I tend not to use the word belief, because that involves a measure of fanaticism I just don't have. But I think that if you build a robust network of manufacturers in a system that communicates with each other, they can still play for their share of the pie, by all means. But like, for instance, if I have a cost overrun and I don't want to, tell my clients, yeah, sure, I'll get to you when I get to you. I'll call Boda and be like, hey, I have this game I need to be printed. Can I hire your guys to do it? Do you have a slot in your space? And vice versa. And then you build this resilient network so that everyone can use it while still trying to make profit. Because that's essentially what China's doing. Like I said, they have like 7 places and 20 names. They all use the same factory, as far as I can tell, or at least in some method like that. So that's
Well,
the
I think
goal.
you're on the same wavelength as us. I mean, that's really been our goal with Wharf Rat Games, is that we obviously we want to put out very high quality games, but at the same time we want to propel this industry further and have it do better. And that's why we're bringing on people like you that don't necessarily have anything to do with Wharf Rat Games. I mean, you've been working with Lock and Load, and we want to push that stuff. We want to push your company and what you're doing with this, everything. And so it's been wonderful to have you on, and let us know when you have a name for this company or something to that effect, so that we website, anything like that.
Blackwell is going to be the name of the company.
What is it?
Wonderful.
Blackwell Inc. with a K. I know, very, very inventive.
Oh, very good.
Blackwell Inc. I like it. So again, thanks you for coming and joining us, and thank you to everyone for listening. And we will continue on with our show. We have more coming up, so stay tuned.
All right, we're back here again, and it's time for a cool classics, and let's find a winner for Guns of August, Avalon Hill. Take it away, Ryan.
Congratulations to our winner. And now let's look at next month's drawing. We are going to be giving away another Avalon Hill game, another World War I game. We're on a little bit of a roll here in honor of Forlorn Hope, our new game coming out. This time we're going to give away a copy of Jim Dunnigan's classic 1914. Exciting game. Let's see who's going to win it. Better get your email into us at info@wharfratgames.com.
Ryan, why did you have me meet you out here in this parking lot near Catonsville?
Catonsville, Maryland, the origins of wargaming as we know it.
What?
Yeah, we're going to take you to a site not too far from here so you can see where it all started. You ready?
Let's do it.
Okay. Okay, Wes, here we are. This is the road I wanted you to go down, Gun Road.
With no outlet. Yeah, right, Ryan.
Okay, so I did find out a little bit about this road. We're looking for 305 Gun Road, by the way, but I did find out a little bit about this road. Supposedly, historically, this road was built by Washington and his army. And the purpose of the road was to transport cannons down to Elk Ridge Landing, which is further down the road here, once you get into the state park down there. And then obviously get the cannons onto the river, and then out, I guess, out of the bay, and then eventually transporting them up, I think, further north. So that historically was why this road was built, but that's not why we're here. We're here because there is a famous house at 305 Gun Road, and I'm hoping we can find, let's see, 610, that's too high a number. It must be down here further someplace. I think we can keep going. I think we'll find it.
I think we will eventually.
Okay, well, hopefully we can. Down here further. Okay, let's keep looking. Well, I'm a little confused. We got to the bottom of Gun Road and we haven't found 305 yet. We see 301, but nothing but a barrier over here. I'll kind of zoom around so we can see a little bit there. A barrier and a railroad track going to the state park, so we can't get any further. This area itself is known as Avalon. Does that ring a bell?
Yep.
And supposedly 305 Gun Road, that's the place that we're looking for, was where Charles S. Roberts first started selling Avalon Hill games. And that's where we're trying to find, but I'm not sure if I see it. Do you see it anywhere?
Nope. I think we should look for a hill, though.
Wait, I think I see a hill. Do you see a hill?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go up that hill over there. Maybe that's where it is.
Let's do it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so we found a hill. So this might be where it is, although I am concerned because it says private property. But this is definitely a hill. So maybe up this hill we can find the house where Avalon Hill started. Let's see if we got anything.
Oh no.
Let's keep going. We got a car. We got a car. Maybe they'll back up for us. Will they?
Should I go to the left?
No,
or the
go
right?
to the right. Go to the right. That looks like a driveway. That says 311. That can't be it. That can't be it. I think that man, I think he was wondering, why are you filming me? Let's keep going. It's got to be up here someplace. So it's this tiny, small road. Oh, wait, I'm seeing something. It looks familiar.
Yep.
I'm seeing something. Looks familiar. Does that say 305? Does that say 305?
305.
Okay, pull over there. It's got to be up there somewhere. So pull over in that park, in that driveway right there on the left. On the left, right there. I don't know how far we can go. We'll just get out right here. It's up here. We're gonna go up further? Do it. Do it. These people are gonna be wondering, why is this person here? But do it. Do it. Hey, that's it.
Oh my God.
That's it. We found it. 305. Want to get out, or is that too much?
Sure.
Goodness, you're a brave man. Okay, so we turned around in the lot. We haven't gotten out yet, but we thought we could get a better look at the house this way. And there it is, 305 Gun Road. That's the house where Charles S. Roberts started selling Avalon Hill games back in the 50s. Roughly, he started selling it, I think, about 54 up until about 58 when they moved the headquarters then to downtown Baltimore. He actually developed his first game, Tactics, earlier in 52, but didn't decide to start selling them until about 54. And from what I understand, basically sold a mail order out of that garage right there. This house was built in 53. From what I understand, from his wife, his original wife died, he got remarried, and then they moved here after the house was built in 53. And then he lived here for quite a while.
Hey Ryan, why don't you get out and take a few pictures? I'll be here. I won't leave you, really.
Oh gosh, I think he's gonna leave me.
No. We'll make our getaway if we have to, but you can get out and take a couple pictures if you want.
Okay, I will.
All right.
There you are. I've been walking all this way from Gun Road. Why'd you leave me?
Oh man, I thought you had your car with you.
No, it's a long way over to here. What do we got over here? What's this place?
Well, this evidently is where that very famous office for Avalon Hill was. Now it's apartments. Used to be a gas station, and then back behind this area was the offices. And what did they house there? What did they actually have there? They had their executive offices. What else did they do?
You know what? I don't completely know. I believe it was the production offices were there. I know they had another building at one point, a couple other buildings for other things. I know our guest from last week, Dave Shaw, worked at this building.
Yep.
So I know they did some of the design and stuff like that here. But it was definitely the place that we thought of as Avalon Hill, 4517 Hartford Road. That was the place everybody knew of. And when I was a kid, we used to come down here, bike, hoping that maybe, I don't know, a game would fall off one of the trucks or something, but that never seemed to happen. So do you want to try to go across the road and see if we can see anything? Well, let's go see if there's anything down this way. I think it's mostly just the apartment building at this point.
Yeah.
Didn't you say something about coming and pitching a game to Avalon Hill at one point?
You know, I sort of withdrew from gaming when I got so heavily into music back around 1980, 81. and then got back into gaming when I settled into the DC area, and actually put together a game when collectible card games were pretty popular. It was called Cold Warrior. And I said, wow, let me just on a lark just write these people at Avalon Hill. And I remember it was a lady named Phyllis Opolka, who was very, very nice. And she invited me to come up and show my game, and I did, and they kept it for, I think it was 6 months.
Wow.
Before I got my rejection letter. It was a very nice rejection letter. And of course, rejection letters are a big part of this business, just like in the music business. So it was really a thrill to come to this place. But you know, you're thinking it's going to be like the nicest building in the world. It wasn't. It was an industrial area around here. And, but still, the thrill was there.
Good, good. Well, it doesn't look like there's much of it left at this point.
No.
I mean, you can see
No.
kind of behind us, it's mostly just an apartment complex at this point.
Well, you know what's left is all the games out there in everybody's hands, and everybody's still playing them and everything. That's what's left of it, you know, and that's okay. That's okay.
You know, I'm going to tilt the camera a little bit behind us, and you'll see that really there's not much left here. It's just they're building an apartment complex, and that's about it. So, Wes, do you think maybe they'll have a plaque in this building like they did at the 7-Eleven that we went to
Well,
last
I'll tell
week?
you, they ought to.
A month ago.
But my guess is that nobody involved with this apartment project has any idea.
Probably not. It's kind of like sacred ground, though, for us war gamers, though, isn't it?
I know. Exactly.
Welcome back, Wharf Rats, and thank you for joining us for our show. Now for some news and notes. Wes, over to you.
Yeah, I think it's pretty exciting that we now have Wharf Rat hats, Wharf Rat shirts, and Wharf Rat mugs.
Yep.
So check them out on our website.
Yep, you can pick them up and order them straight through Printify store. And I'll put the link down below, and I'll link it also on the website. We also have a brand new BGG page for our company, as well as for the game of Forlorn Hope. And a big shout out to Eric Martin, who helped me facilitate that, as well as he put up a nice story about us and the game on the front page of BGG, which got a lot of attention.
Yeah.
We even made it to the hotness. I was very excited about that, my first time on the hotness. And finally, we got some conventions. Tell them about the conventions, Wes.
Well, on January 18th at 2 p.m., we're on an online convention, ACDC, so you've got to check that out. We'll be showing Forlorn Hope.
Yeah.
And then we'll be at PresCon. Let's see, that's February 19 to 23rd, so we'll be there for the whole last half of the week.
Yep.
And, of course, have lots we're going to do there with Wharf Rat Games, and The Pursuit of John Wilkes Booth is coming out. It will be out by then, too.
Okay, that's
and
true.
that's designed by both of us, so we'll be showing that, too.
That's true. So hope to see you there, and take care and have a great rest of your day.
Bye-bye. What's here? Stocking. What do I have in here? It's a lump of coal. I didn't think I was that bad this year. Whoa, what is this? Oh my goodness. Oh man, Rogue Regiment. I've been wanting this game. Gotta check this out. The box lid off. Wait a minute. 2 lumps of coal. Oh my God. Arg! All right, my last present. Let me check it out. What could it be? Yeah, just what I wanted. A Wharf Rat's hat. Wharf Rat Games hat, yeah. Happy holidays.